Could I make it bigger? Maybe. But I just do things the hard way. They're really good, mediocre, or really bad. The caffeine is kicking in. That's why I'm talking so much. Dutch Bros. We got some things to cover in this episode of what is Kayla reading. I have so many things I need to tell you. I actually can't remember all of them. Anyway, hello guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Kayla and I'm so excited that you're here. Today we are going to be doing a mid-year book freakout tag. It is the end of June when I'm filming this. It's supposed to go out on Monday, which is the last day of June, actually. So is that late or is that early? I don't know. If you see little hairs popping up right here, no, you don't. I just got my hair cut and I haven't had a chance to wash it and like style my bangs. So this is what you get today. Just ignore it. Just ignore it. So yeah, we're doing the mid-year book freakout tag. This tag has been around like the whole time that I've done any sort of book related social media. Way back in like 2018, I think is when I started with my sister, and now it's 2025. I have never once known who started this tag. I've never once seen a video or a TikTok or an Instagram post where someone has said, oh, this is the original creator. So I'm not even going to try to track down who started this, but just know you are a god of booktube. You started the trend of all trends. So if you do know this god of book related social media, please tag them down below. Let me know so I can give them props in the future. But all of my questions came from Carrie Cakes, her video. So I trust her. So that's what we're going with. Before we begin, I know I've had like a bunch of tangents so far, but I just wanted to recognize the fact that over these last 2 weeks, between the last video, which was my March and April wrap up, and this video, we reached over 200 subscribers, which is crazy. I'm so like, I keep thinking about it and I'm just like mind boggled by like the number of people that is. I know that like in terms of social media that might not seem like a big number, but like I said, I've been doing this on and off for like 6 or 7 years in varying degrees of commitment. So I'm so glad that all of you are here and I'm so grateful. Thank you for being here and I'm excited to continue making videos for all of you. I'm so glad that these are entertaining to some people. They're definitely entertaining for me. I have fun making them and I'm glad that you hopefully have fun watching them. Anyway, I'm not gonna get sappy, but I'm very excited about that. Now on to the actual books, because that's why we're here, right? Get down to business, Kayla. Actually, we're not talking about books yet. I have my notes over here, that's why I keep ducking out of frame. The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna talk stats. And if you see me squinting, it's because I just got my glasses lens replaced and my eyes have not settled. So I'm gonna be like this, looking at the screen. Could I make it bigger? Maybe. But I just do things the hard way. Oh, also, I wanted to sit here because I have my TBR cart here. I'm gonna reorganize my bookshelves. You can't see them. There's no good way for me to sit in my room where you can see all my bookshelves because they're all like floating shelves. I'm sure you've seen them in vlogs. But I wanted to sit here because you can see my TBR cart, right? I also brought up all of my books from downstairs that didn't fit on my shelves anymore in my school books, right? So you, because they're stacked behind me, but I took all the books off of my shelves that I wanted to talk about today, and the stacks are so short now. The one's right here, and one's right here, and then there's a couple behind me. So when I put these books back after I'm done talking to you, this place will be a little bit more aesthetic, but the caffeine is kicking in. That's why I'm talking so much. So far in 2025, I have read 30 books, which is pretty good. My goal is 35. So I will most likely, I don't want to say definitely because you never know, but I will most likely hit that goal by the end of the summer, maybe. I mean, I'm going to be traveling a lot in the second part of this year, so maybe not, but the likelihood of me reading 5 books between today, June, what day is today? 23rd? 24th, and December 31st is 31st. Very likely, considering the fact that I am an English major. So it would probably be a crime if I didn't read 5 books before the end of the year. So we're gonna try to bump that up. I don't know what number I'm gonna bump it up to. I'll see how I feel when we get there. My secret goal is to reach and surpass the amount of books I read last year, which was 50. But that was a pretty good year for reading. I was just like cranking it out. So we'll see where I'm at when I reach that 35th book. I'll let you know. I'll update you. According to Storygraph, I have read mostly young adult and fantasy novels this year, which is pretty accurate, I'd say. I feel like I've also been reading more sci-fi, but I just picked the first 2, so I don't remember what the third one was on the pie chart. And I've also been reading mostly adventurous and emotional books. I feel like that's like a personality description for me. Adventurous yet emotional. Probably emotional yet adventurous. So probably put emotional number 1 spot. The ratings that I give the most are 3 and 4 stars, which is good because what did I say? I said which is good means I'm picking mediocre to semi-good books. That's fair. That's fair. Wish I had more than one 5-star though. That's true. I think I have 2 5-stars according to Storygraph. One of them was a reread of Legendborn, and the other one is Oathbound, which you saw my vlog of. So yeah, that's my only 5-star. I'm really picky about 5-stars, so that's not really surprising. 4 stars, I feel like I've been giving more of those out. I've also recently discovered the art of the quarter or partial stars, so like 0.25, 0.5, and 0.75. I used to be staunchly against rating things with like partial stars, not for other people. Like if you want to rate something a partial star, like go for you. Go for you. Good for you. Go for it. I'm not judging that. I just personally did not like it. I didn't want to do it because it messed with my stats between Goodreads and Storygraph. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Like the asymmetry. But I don't remember what book I read. Was it Where All Sleeping Girls Lie? I think it was that book where I just was like, this is not a 4-star, but this is also not a 5-star. How do I bridge the gap? I can't do it. So I don't remember what I rated it, but I think that or maybe the Percy Jackson book, The Wrath of the Triple Goddess, which I currently recently read. I think those were the ones where I started to like access the partial star art because I just could not decide. It didn't do it justice, right? Which one? Maybe I'm lying. I don't remember. I read a lot of good books in the beginning of June. It was like bam, bam, bam. Like it was crazy. And then I hit a wall so hard. It was so terrible. I've been reading the same book for almost a week, which in the summer is crazy because I read a lot more during the summer. It's so frustrating. This book that I'm reading right now, The Bones Beneath My Skin, I think it's called TJ Klune. I'm so done. I'm so done. I hate that it's entertaining, but it's not entertaining. I hate it, but I love it. I don't know. I have such mixed emotions. Every time I read it, I'm like, girl, why are we doing this again? I can't. I've lost the plot. I should be doing the tag right now, but I'm just so. Every time I open the ebook, I'm just like, what is going to happen? Am I going to hate it? Am I going to love it? Am I going to cringe so hard I get secondhand embarrassment and have to put the book down? Like, what's going on? Oh, poor me. Poor me. This is the first TJ Klune book that I've actually like gotten through though, and I swear it's just sheer will right now because it's a book club book and I need to know. I need to know what happens. I have more thoughts, but I'm gonna try to move on because I've been yapping for 12 minutes according to my ticker right there, and I haven't actually answered any of the tag questions. Okay. Oh, I'm not even gonna answer the questions yet because I put in my notes before we begin. I wanted to do a little book haul because last week, my mom, my sister, and I, we went to Powell's Books in Portland, and I didn't end up vlogging it, but I still wanted to yap about the books that I got, so I wanted to show you real quick. I swear we will get to the tag. I promise. Okay, the first book, well, should I show you I'll show you my trinkets first. My mom, she loves a good trinket. Anytime we travel, anytime we go shopping, she's like, do you want a magnet? Do you want a postcard? Do you want a sticker? And me being her daughter, I'm like, I also love a trinket. Like I want the postcard, I want the sticker, I want it all. So so courtesy of my mother, these are the little trinkets that I got while we were gone. First, this little Powell's City of Books sticker. I think I might put this on my laptop. I don't know if I have space, but I'll figure it out. And then we have this other sticker that the register person gave my mom. I think my camera might be inverted wrong for this, so you might not be able to read it, but it just says Powell's City of Books again. And then I got this postcard, and this is, I think, the blue room. Yeah, which is like the first room that we go in, and that was like a really overwhelming room. It has like literature and poetry and classics and stuff like that on it. It was really cool, but it was really overwhelming. It's a first room like full of shelves, right? The first room that you go in, it's like it's the green room, I think, and it has like new releases. It has stuff, but it's really wide and really spread out because it is the first room and it has the cashiers. So it's like I think it's technically the highest trafficked room, but the blue room is like packed. And so I got really overwhelmed because it's like the main thoroughfare. I was like, oh no. But I did come back. I did get to explore it. I think you can see the pink room in the back. Maybe that is the pink room. Yeah, which I spent a lot of time in as well. Because that one had like young adults, like Twilight and Marissa Meyer and that kind of vibe, and graphic novels and children, so that kind of vibe. And then I have the map that I got because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to navigate this place. So here's the map. It's kind of bent because I had it in the books, but here's the map. I went through most of the rooms, but I didn't go to all of them. I think I went to everyone except 2, maybe. This was pretty cool. I definitely looked lost sometimes, but that's okay. We persevered. Okay, and then I got 2 books, which was crazy. I know, but I have all of these books to read. The first book that I got, I can pick it up. Oh, I almost just dropped it and knocked over my drink. This is The Witchstone by Henry H. Neff. I really don't know what this book is about. I was at the chiropractor the other day, place of all places, and we were talking about books. And she's like, oh, what books did like, what are the books about that you got at Powell's? And I was like, to be honest, it's kind of ambiguous. I told her that this book is about a demon who's supposed to handle curses and like make sure that curses work, but he's not very good at it. He just doesn't want to. That's my vibe that I get off this book, but I don't actually know if that's true. Yeah, again, the description's kind of ambiguous, but it sounded like a fun time, so why not give it a go, you know? Also, this was the only copy that I saw on the shelf, so I felt very elite. I like searched the whole like I think it's gold room for it. I was like looking around. I was using the alphabetized, shelves, and I found it. And I only saw one copy, so I'm glad that I got it. And the other book that I got was Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. This took me by surprise. I was not planning on getting a Victoria Aveyard book. I kind of knew that I wanted to get the Witchstone when I went there to Powell's, but I have like a love-hate relationship with Victoria Aveyard because I read Red Queen, it's right here, a couple years ago, and I didn't dislike it, but I didn't really love it. But I think part of that was because of the time and the place that I was reading it in. And so I think that I want to give Victoria Aveyard another chance. I don't think it's her fault that I didn't, I wasn't in like the right context, I guess, to really appreciate it. I don't know. I didn't dislike the book. I think it just soaked in the circumstances. And so I have that impression of it, even though that's not the book's fault. So I definitely want to give it another try. And I want to give Victoria Aveyard another try. Yeah, this was picked up kind of on a whim because I was walking around the bookstore for like 2 hours and I was like, I cannot leave this place with one book. Like, I have to get another one. And my brain just latched onto this one and said, okay. Again, a little bit not certain about the description. Part of the reason why I don't do TBRs anymore is I'm not good at describing books that I've never read. Like, I only can tell you the vibe and the aesthetic and whether or not I trust the person that recommended it to me. Why is Libby giving me a notification? Go away. Thank you. When I read the description, it sounded very classic fantasy. You got a random cast of characters, or not random, but like a motley crew of characters who are all working towards saving the world. There's probably going to be drama, probably going to be love, probably going to be magic. The deal. You know the deal. So excited for that. That's the whole haul. That's the whole haul. Anyway, now let's actually answer the tag because I've been filming for 20 minutes. So let's answer the tag. All these answers are tentative, okay? I was just kind of pulling things out of the air when I was trying to find answers to these questions because for somebody who likes doing these kinds of videos, I'm not very good at critically thinking about my reading. Like, I can tell you what I think about the book. Like, I have a hard time telling you like what my favorite book of the year was because I'm like, they're all either really good, mediocre, or really bad. Like, I have very strong feelings, but lining those feelings up in comparison, I'm not very good at. Best book you've read so far in 2025. Why did I put this book? I put Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. That's crazy. I forgot that I put that there. So yeah, this is the fourth book in the Hunger Games trilogy. Well, it's a prequel. So you have the original Hunger Games trilogy, and then you have the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes here, and then Sunrise on the Reaping here. Does that make sense? I'll try to put like a graphic up, but it takes place in between Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the original trilogy, and it follows Haymitch's games, that whole story, and all of the things that go along with that. Is this the most perfect book I've ever read? No. But a great start to the summer. I was telling you earlier that I read like back to back to back banger books in the beginning of June or end of May, beginning of June. This was one of them. I was literally up late, like flipping pages. It was so bad. I stayed up so late reading this book. I like binged it to finish it one day, and I finished the book and I was like walking around the house like, what do I do now? It was a very compulsive story. It was a very nostalgic also, but not in like an icky way. What did I mean by that? Yeah, it was very nostalgic, but it didn't feel like cheap or icky or like sometimes looking back on things, you're like, "Ooh, why did I like that?" Like it was very nostalgic in a heartwarming way, but it was also like heartbreaking. It was heart shattering, is what I wrote. Heartbreakingly shattering story because it hit hard most of the time when it needed to, and I highlight most of the time. I think the hard part about the Hunger Games books is that it very much like desensitizes the reader to violence, and so sometimes and that's part of the whole propaganda thing, right? Is that the Hunger Games are these brutal things where people are dying, and the Capitol's like, "Woohoo, go favorite team!" So it makes sense that that's part of the kind of shtick of the Hunger Games is to make violence seem normal. But that's why like it hit hard most of the time because as a reader, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, everybody's dying!" Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I hope that makes sense. Being in Haymitch's head was definitely like an adjustment, but it was also kind of fun. Like, I liked his sarcasm. He just, he just, I don't even know how to say, he just was who he was, and he had no qualms about himself. He was like probably the funniest character in her games to read. Reading Coriolanus's perspective just made me uncomfortable. I was like, I don't want to be in your head, man, but I would be in Haymitch's head. Like, I would read Haymitch's POV all the time. It's so funny. I kind of want like a Haymitch POV of the original trilogy. That would be so funny. It'd just be like day 9. Katniss didn't listen to me again. I also really liked learning about more about the Covey. I don't think that's a spoiler because the Covey are known in this world, and like finding out more because this book takes place between Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the original trilogy, we kind of learn more about the ending of Ballad, because not too much, just like little crumbs that kind of answered like some remaining questions that I had at the end of Ballad, just because like that book was so much, and I was like, this is too much information for me to even like consider drawing conclusions about the ending. So it was nice to have like like a little bit of closure, not a ton, but just like a little bit of closure between the two, because it's kind of like a bridge, right? You see the path that every character was taking between Ballad, Sunrise, and then the original trilogy. So it was kind of cool to have that connecting bridge between them and see the tail end of Ballad and then kind of like the beginning crumbs of the original trilogy in terms of like character development, character storylines, character interconnection, stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting reading about the fact that like if you've read the original trilogy, you kind of already know what happens in Hamish's games. Don't know why she's barking. What was I saying? Oh yeah, if you've read the original trilogy, in the second book, Catching Fire, I don't think that this is a spoiler, but just beware if you are sensitive to Catching Fire spoilers. We kind of figure out the gist of Hamish's games. Like it is told to us the gist of Hamish's games in the plot, obviously. And so I was kind of it was interesting to see how Suzanne Collins was able to expand on a story that audiences already knew, which boy we did not know. Like it is so complex, it is so layered in a appropriate way. Like it's not like Legendborn where it's like so dense that it takes so much time to read it, but it's layered in an appropriate way that makes sense with the rest of the series. So it was fun to kind of see like things that I knew were gonna happen. I saw them happen, right? Like it was still somewhat accurate what we learned in Catching Fire, but it was so much more than that. It was so much more complicated, and it wasn't exactly the way that we saw it there because of the capital and like all this stuff that's going on. I don't know. And none of these things that I'm saying are new, right? Like if you've read or watched any other review of Sunrise on the Reaping, this is not new information. I'm just concurring with some of the other thoughts that I've heard on the internet. That's really cool the way she was able to expand these things. So yeah, that's the best book of the year so far, which I feel like is hard to answer because I've read so many good books this year, but I tried not to repeat things in these questions, so please don't take these as absolutes. Best sequel I've read in 2025, Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. So I don't remember a lot about this book because I read it in January, so I can't really give you a plot summary because I don't remember. And also because it's a sequel, so I don't want to spoil it. I just remember like consuming it as fast as I could consume this book that's so big. And I thought it was really great. Essentially, it follows the fallout from Vicious and expands the character storylines to make the plot like even more condensed and hard to decipher. I can't read. Decipher. Yes, I just remember it being so thick with like plot and history and complications and religion and like all of these competing motivations that were just they were present in Vicious, obviously, because Vicious was very, very heavy, but they just like came to a head even stronger in this book to the point where like I heard that V.E. Schwab was writing a third book, and I'm like, how do you even, what else is there to do? And not in like a bad, I don't even know what to do. My phone just cut me off mid-sentence because I ran out of storage. This hasn't happened to me in so long. Oh no. Okay, I tried to clear storage. I hope that this works. I'll figure it out either way. This is panic for present me, not present you. My phone said you've been yapping for too long. You need to be quicker. So, what do I even want to say about Vengeful? Yeah, basically, what I wrote was, from what I remember, it was a great follow up to the original book, and it was just as gruesome, ugly, complicated, and steeped in envy and cross motivations and gray areas and questionable morals as the first one. I don't know what the rest of that note means, but yeah, it was a great sequel. I haven't read that many sequels this year, but this one definitely stood out among the rest. Okay, speed run. New releases that you haven't read yet but you want to. Okay, there's two. It's I can't speak. The Starving Saints by Caitlin Starling and Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Okay, so the Starving Saints, saw Kira's review of it and it looked really good. I was actually gonna get it at Powell's, but it was $30 for a hardcover, and I don't have like, I mean, I guess I do kind of have that kind of money if I wanted to have that kind of money, but I was trying to be frugal. So I was like, no, I'll come back and get another copy another time. So that one's on hold. That's why I haven't read that one yet. Also, I just haven't gotten around to it. And then Bury Bones in Midnight Soil, V. Schwab, like I just mentioned, I'm a new V. Schwab fan and I want to see her work outside of the Vengeful stuff. So my mom actually got it at Powell's, but I've seen some mixed reviews. So I'm interested to see what I think of it once I finally get around to reading it. And then most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, there's a couple here. Most of them are just ones that I've heard other people reviewing that I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting, but I don't really know a lot about them. So we have Katabasis, R of Kuang, Hazelthorn, C.G. Drews, and Snake Eater by T. Kingfisher. Again, Katabasis I've heard mixed reviews, so I'm just kind of like intrigued, like I want to read it and see what everyone's talking about. And it reminds me, like the description, I haven't actually read like the proper description, but what I've seen from reviews, it reminds me so much of the Ninth House Hellbent vibe by Lee Bardugo that like I can't not read this book. Like I don't even know if they're comparable. They remind me so much of each other that I have to read it just to see. And I also haven't ever read an R of Kwang book before. So I don't know if this is a good introduction, but this is when I'm jumping on the chat. So this is what we're gonna go with. Hazelthorn, I don't know anything about it. I wrote my notes, it's a carrot cakes cop because I just saw her talking about it. I was like, yes. That's the thing about like booktube and her video specifically. I'm just like, you're making my TBR too long, girl. Come on. I said the description of Hazelthorn sounded delicious, whatever that meant. I was writing these notes at like 8:30 at night, so I don't know what I was thinking. And then Snake Eater, actually, I just read the arc of this. It was my first arc ever, so I'm interested to see the final published version compares to the arc that I read. I've already read it, but I'm interested to see the final version. And then the biggest disappointment. Oh, this isn't gonna come as a shock to anybody. The Folk of the Air trilogy. I'm not holding all these. Can you see that? Folk of the Air trilogy. Oh boy. What do I have to say about this book? I'm just gonna hold the first one up. Oh, I'm throwing things. These books weren't really bad, to be honest. They were just very empty. And I technically read this book in 2024, but I got a text. I got a text! I technically read this book, the first book, in 2024, but I'm still gonna count it for 2025 because I finished the whole trilogy this year. Basically, this book's supposed to be about a girl named Jude who's like living in fairyland. I don't know if that's what they call it in the book, but that's basically it's fairyland, right? It's the land of fae, the land of fairies. Okay, it's basically a human living in fairy because her adopted dad killed her family, essentially, and she's living with her twin sister who's also human and her other sister who's fairy or half fairy or something like that. And basically, she's fighting for power and also happens to find love in the middle of that. But I don't like it. For the amount of hype that I heard these books get, it fell short for me. I didn't find it very entertaining. Well, that's not true. It was entertaining, but it felt very empty. Like I said before, like I felt like I was reading a book. I was hoping for something revolutionary or at least deliciously entertaining, and that's not what I got. Okay, my other mic just died. This is a fantastic. In quick succession, my mic died, my other mic, and then my phone also ran out of storage again. So we're just gonna speed run this. Hopefully I can get it in. I apologize for the sheer drop in yapping, but we're just gonna get through this. Didn't like it. End of story. I did talk a little bit about like my thoughts on the romance and how like the trajectory of the romance was really confusing because it was supposed to be like enemies to lovers, but I didn't really understand why it was enemies. That's my thoughts on that. The Crow Prince. The whole what's this trilogy called? Folk of the Air trilogy. The biggest surprise that I had was the 7-year slip. This was the first book that I read in 2025. And I have a love-hate relationship with contemporary romance. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, and this one hit. It was really cute. It was basically about like this girl Clementine who, if I remember correctly, she moves into her aunt's apartment. Her aunt no longer lives there for reasons that I don't know or spoilery or not, so I'm not gonna say them. And she finds out that, hey, like this apartment time travels, and guess what? There's a person living in the apartment when she time travels, and hey, guess what? She might love him. So shenanigans ensue, you know? Yeah, from what I remember, I just loved like the unique premise and how it created like these really funny and somewhat predictable but still like really fun predicaments for the characters to go through. I really liked the side characters out there. They were really sweet and cute and fun. It was one of my favorite contemporary romances. I think it's a contemporary romance that I've read ever. I mean, I haven't read very many, but I do like it. And it was also very compulsive. Like I read it really quickly. I would recommend this if you're like in a reading slump because it was really fast, really easy to read. I'm not a huge contemporary romance person, like trying to get more into it, but like they hit and they miss sometimes, but this one was definitely a hit and I loved it. Okay, so my new favorite author, Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé, she wrote, oh, I got rid of my notes. Where did they go? I very, very recently read Where Sleeping Girls Lie by this author and loved it. I loved it so much. It was so good. I devoured it, I said in my notes. It was an extremely interesting premise, and I really, really loved how the author was able to write an untrustworthy narrator, but it wasn't like cheating to the reader, right? Like, I still trusted her, I still really liked getting to know her, but I knew that I didn't know everything about this main character, and that's okay, right? I didn't feel cheated as an audience member, which is really great because if you saw my review of The Angel of Crows, I think that book was, hated that because it tried to do what this book did, which was have mystery in a, I don't think this one was first person. I can't remember. No, it wasn't first person. But in The Angel of Crows, the author tried to write in like a mystery in the first person POV character, the protagonist, and it felt very cheated because like I'm reading in this person's point of view. Why don't I know everything? And with this book, the author here did what that author was trying to do by writing a really relatable, yeah, a kind of lovable character in not, it was still written in third POV, but she was the main character, but I didn't feel cheated, right? Like I didn't know everything and that was okay because I still got to know her, which is really important. I still got to know her as a protagonist and having a direct connection to the plot and emotion of the story. So that was really, really important to me, and I was really blown away by the author's ability to do that. And also the way that she just like unfolded the plot was just really interesting and really like, oh my gosh, I was gasping. It was so amazing. Anyway, it definitely brought up this author's other work to the top of the TBR pile. And of course, I mean that metaphorically because there's too many books here to have like it actually move up to top pile, but you know, I'm gonna keep an eye out for it. New favorite character. I kind of want to skip this one because like I didn't really have a new favorite character. I had characters that I enjoyed reading about. Like I said, Baz from Where Sleeping Girls Lie, which is really funny because his name's Basil. It's Basil. I was so confused because his name is Baz, and in the story they're like, oh yeah, it's short for Basil. I was like, how is Baz short for? And then I realized that I'm pretty sure this book is set in England, so they say Basil. It was so funny. I was just sitting there reading like, oh, how stupid am I? I was sitting there so confused. Like, it took me a second to figure out the connection between Baz and Basil, and then I figured it out. Oh, I love reading. So I had characters that I enjoyed reading about, like Baz and the side characters from 7 Year Slip. I had characters that I enjoyed revisiting because I did a lot of like rereading this year, like the original trio from PJO, Percy Jackson, Haymitch and the crew from Sunrise on the Reaping and the Legend Board Club and all those people. There were characters that I respect, like Selena from Snake Eater and the T-Monk from Psalm of the Wild Built, but I don't really have a favorite character. So I guess I created like a community of characters that I really enjoy. So there's that. Book that made me cry. I don't really cry. Well, that's not true. I do cry sometimes when I read books. I didn't have a book yet so far this year that I cried while reading, or that I at least that enough that I remember. But a few books did definitely hit me emotionally hard, and those books were Sunrise on the Reaping and Vengeful for previously mentioned reasons, but also Misery by Stephen King. Crazy twist. It was so like gut-wrenchingly shocking. I was just reading it like, oh my god, how can this get any worse? It was so gross. It was so gruesome. I was like, what on earth is this book and why am I reading it and why am I enjoying it? It was just so disturbing. If you don't know, Misery is basically about this guy named Paul, I think it was, where he's a writer, and he gets in a car accident. He gets like, I think, thrown off the road, or he drives off the road or something. He gets really injured, and he's saved, right, by his number one fan, and she is not a safe person to be around. Again, shenanigans ensue. So it was just so dark, and I just was like, I didn't cry, I don't think, but it was just so like uncomfortable to read that it's still like, even thinking about it, I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. A book that made me happy. Who would have thunk that I would say Oathbound by Tracy Dion? Who would have thunk? I keep yapping about this book in like every video, I think, for the last like 3 months. So I'll just keep it brief and say that this was one of my most highly anticipated reads of this year. And it did make me happy to read and revisit the world and see what these characters are up to, you know, see what kind of trouble they're getting into, kind of plot expansions going on. Anticipation is such a tricky thing with books because it can potentially ruin a book. So I think I dealt with that a little bit with this book, but I have been anticipating it since 2022 or whenever I finished Blood March. So that was kind of a factor in this reading, but it was still fun to read and revisit the rich world, you know, and all the things that happen in it. I wrote in my notes, I said, hopefully Queen Tracy comes through with book 4 sometime soon. At least an announcement. Come on, Queen Tracy, we love you. Okay, we're almost to the end. My poor camera is like, girl. Most beautiful book I've bought so far this year received. I said Oathbound and also Where Sleeping Girls Lie. Let me just show you. It's just so pretty. I love little hardcovers, and I like the front detailing on Where Sleeping Girls Lie. That detailing has to do with the plot of the book, if I remember correctly. Okay, last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? All of them. Every book. All of these. I've read most of the books behind me. Everything on the TBR, just all of them. So that's a stupid question, because What books do you not have to read by the end of the year? Okay, my leg is falling asleep. I've been here for like 45 minutes. I had to speed run that. I apologize. But reading plans for the end of the year, I kind of already spoke about this. I want to exceed my reading goal of 35 books and hopefully, maybe get to 50. We'll see. Let's not stress ourselves out because reading is meant to be fun. I'm going to be traveling a lot in the second half of this year, like I mentioned earlier. So I just want to make sure that I continue reading and keep that habit up because it helps a lot with my mental health. And it's also just fun to make videos for you guys and to talk about the books that I love to go to book club and do all these great things. So yeah, I want to keep that habit even when it's hard because I know it's hard to do things when you're traveling or in a different environment. Especially since I'm going to be traveling, I'm not going to have this cart with me. I'm going to have to utilize the ebooks. Libby, I love you. I love you so much. Oh yeah, I wrote in my notes that like because I'm going to be traveling, obviously like I said, I'm going to have to use ebooks a lot. Me and ebooks were frenemies. Okay, like I respect her, I love her, but I don't really like ebooks. They're just not my favorite way of reading. So I respect them, right? I want to be clear about that. Ebooks are valid ways to read. I don't like it, so I'm trying to get used to it. I'm trying to read more ebooks, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be able to read in any place that I can. Yeah, and then I also want to keep reading and reviewing arcs. I mentioned earlier that I started an NetGalley account and I started reading. I read my first arc. I haven't submitted my review for it yet, but I want to keep going and see if that's fun to do. But anyway, that was my mid-year book tag. I think I spent collectively more time talking in the beginning of the video than I actually did talking about the tag. But all of it's worth it. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to me yap about these books. More to come in the future. I hope none of this was a surprise. You've been seeing my wrap-ups all year. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you like this video and want to see more of my face in your feed, please hit the like button and subscribe. I will see you in another video sometime hopefully soon. Bye!